And welcome back to the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. I'm your host, Sean Meyers, joined as always by Jason Saputo, and on this Father's Day, joined by his father, Jason, kind enough to take time out of his day to join us as well. It is an important day here in WWE, as it is Money in the Bank tonight, and this segment is going to be our predictions and what we expect to happen tonight on what is becoming one of the biggest pay-per-views of the year for WWE. Before we jump into the big matches, Sean, Jason, your thoughts on, does this feel similar to, maybe not a WrestleMania or a SummerSlam, but the other big shows? Does it feel like a Royal Rumble? Does it feel like a Survivor Series because of the Money in the Bank matches?
They're definitely trying to push this as one of the bigger pay-per-views of the year, just for the simple fact that with the two briefcases now, you have a year to cash them in, so you never know. So it's definitely this pay-per-view, whoever the winners are, it's definitely putting a spotlight on them. So yeah, I would say that they're trying to definitely put this in the air of a SummerSlam and a Survivor Series type pay-per-view.
See, I agree completely. They're trying to make it the now Big Five, using this as the fifth one. My only gripe that I will have about this, and the only way I can consider it more as a bigger pay-per-view, is if they go back to the original scheme of what the Money in the Bank ladder match was, and that was being, now that it's a dual-branded pay-per-view, 4 on each side, whoever collects the briefcase should be able to cash in on either world champion at any time, not just distinctly to the brand.
The fact that Brock Lesnar's not there tonight, does that also sort of take away? And I'm sick of Brock Lesnar, trust me.
Brock Lesnar being the champion just takes away from everything. I mean, them even putting him in, they say he passed CM Punk's title reign is ridiculous. It's not the same lineage. He doesn't defend it. I don't think that they should even put him and CM Punk in the same category as far as the title longevity.
They did it to get rid of CM Punk's name.
Yeah, WWE is very petty with stuff like that. They did the exact same thing seemingly with AJ Lee when they had, I believe, Nikki Bella pass her. So there's not going to be a Universal title defense tonight. No surprise there. So there will be the SmackDown title, the WWE title on the line, as well as the Money in the Bank men's and women's matches. I think those are clearly the three biggest matches. We will start with the men's Money in the Bank, which I would suspect will close out the show. I don't know if there's been any official word broken on that. But to me, that's the biggest match and the one that they put the most time into building. And it's going to be interesting because one little wrinkle to this match is we know 7 participants. We do not know the 8th. The New Day, as you could sort of anticipate, did not reveal their hand. So it'll either be Kofi Kingston, Big E, or Xavier Woods joining Finn Balor, Rusev, The Miz, Braun Strowman, Bobby Roode, Kevin Owens, Samoa Joe. And I will offer up the first prediction here for Money in the Bank. I am going with, I think, 2 factors that are going to be key when trying to figure out who might come out on top in this men's Money in the Bank. One, I think Money in the Bank typically favors the heels. You have that kind of slimy cash-in where you're taking advantage opportunistically. It's easier to do that with a heel. There's been faces who have done it, certainly. CM Punk was an example of one. John Cena even won Money in the Bank. But I think it generally favors a heel. And I think with Brock Lesnar rarely being around, pretty much never, it also would make more sense to have a SmackDown competitor win this, because then you constantly, each and every week, have the threat of a cash-in, which adds some excitement. So I'm going Samoa Joe. He's a heel on SmackDown. And by the way, he's been doing some great work over the last couple of months. If he can stay healthy, he could be right up there with AJ Styles as the face of SmackDown Live. He's my pick. Probably a guy that doesn't need to win this match, but I think he will be the choice, and he's, I think, a pretty safe pick. So I'm going Samoa Joe to win the men's Money in the Bank briefcase tonight.
See, I went deep storyline on this Money in the Bank in my prediction, because I look and I was reading, supposedly there's nothing planned for Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam right now.
Yeah, I read that as well. I would assume that they have to figure out a way to get him on that show sooner rather than later.
This played my prediction, and this was me playing bookie in my head. Bookie, whatever. Same. So I think what they do is I'm picking Braun Strowman to win the Money in the Bank. Not because he needs to have a briefcase to win a world title at any stretch, because he doesn't. But I could see a storyline play in which there's still nothing for Brock Lesnar. They don't build anything for Braun come SummerSlam. Braun just simply walks out at SummerSlam with the briefcase. Brock is there, but nothing's planned for him. And Braun cashes in the contract and forces Lesnar out to the ring. Lesnar has to come into the ring because it turns into a match. Braun walks out with the championship at SummerSlam, cashing in on a fresh champion, getting the first time we see somebody with Money in the Bank call out a champion.
So your choice, Braun Strowman, then. Jason, any thoughts on that?
I dig what you're throwing on that, but I don't think they need to bring. I don't think they need to use the briefcase to do something like that if they were to choose to go that route. With what not getting away from topic, but with nobody knows what's going on with Brock Lesnar, whether his contract's up or what. With that, they could do something like that. They have to write him out somehow. They can have Braun Strowman, call him out. Brock doesn't back down from anybody, and he loses. But as far as the Money in the Bank predictions, I'm going with Samoa Joe also. Like I said, I don't think that a Raw superstar is going to nor needs to win the briefcase for the situation we just said. Samoa Joe and AJ have teased rekindling their rivalry from TNA. I think it would be nice to see them rekindling that. They had great matches for TNA, and I don't see why they couldn't have more great matches in WWE. So I'm going with Samoa Joe.
All right, so Samoa Joe, the consensus for the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. Now let's move on to the women's side, and I think an interesting dynamic here, because with the women, again, you have to try to sift through and determine, do you have SmackDown come out on top? Do you have Monday Night Raw prevail? So there's some different options here, and I see a lot of people picking Becky Lynch. To me, I'm not going to go the route with Becky Lynch, because I just don't think the company has enough conviction to go through with a Becky Lynch push. So I'm going to go on the Monday Night Raw side, and something that we alluded to before. You tie in a participant in this match with Ronda Rousey, and that means that, to me, it's going to be Natalya. And I think it will be Natalya winning and turning on her friend, Ronda Rousey. Maybe not tonight, but at some point when Ronda wins the title, Natalya cashes in, and then you set up that rivalry right there, with Natalya going back to what I think is more natural for her, playing a heel. So I think that she's the pick, and they're also sort of giving a little bit of background to her pursuit of this with the knee injury that she suffered. A lot of the other women, they're just thrown in this match, and they're just in the match. With her, they're giving her an angle already. So they're putting that time in. I think it's going to result in something. So that's why I'm going with Natalya as my pick for the women's Money in the Bank. Plus, you sort of split it up then. You have, if I'm right with the men, Samoa Joe on SmackDown. You want to get one of the briefcases on Raw, so I think it makes sense to go with Natalya on that side.
I agree. I'm going with Natalya for the simple fact that I already think that the Rousey Nia Jax match is in question because I don't think either one of those girls can lead a match. I think Natty makes a good heel. I think she's a little too annoying to be a face. I could honestly see, depending on the order of matches tonight, Natty winning the briefcase and cashing it in tonight to start the feud. Whether it be Nia Jax or Rousey winning the title, I could see, if it plays right, I can see Natty interjecting herself with the contract into the match and pinning either one of the two, make it a three-way, a triple threat match, pinning Rousey and winning the title. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Natty on it because all that stuff just it falls into place with me. With Rousey needing a veteran to lead her through some matches to get her footing, and Nia I really don't think is a credible champion. So yeah, I'm going to go with Natalya.
Sean, what say you?
I'm taking the stance you two have on the opposite end. I don't think Carmella is walking out with the championship in some way, shape, or form tonight. So I picked Becky Lynch. I think Becky Lynch has been on a hot streak on SmackDown Live over the last month and a half. She's beaten Charlotte. She looked phenomenal in that 10-woman tag match this past week. And I really think that Becky Lynch is the most underrated, underutilized women's wrestler on SmackDown Live. And I think something like winning Money in the Bank can really help revitalize Becky Lynch's career and get her back into that main event level that she was supposed to be at this entire time on SmackDown when she was the first woman drafted for the SmackDown roster.
Three people I really do not want to see win this match, as we had the graphic up there with the participants. Charlotte, because she's been a champion so many times, and she certainly, of all the people, needs this the least out of anyone. Alexa Bliss, similar story on Monday Night Raw. She'd been the champion for such a long time. She's so good that she doesn't need this. And Lana, should never be in contention. So those three, I really hope don't win it. With two of them, just because they're already too established as champions, and the other one just not in that stratosphere.
There's one thing I want to see happen in this match. I want to see a Bayley heel turn costing Sasha Banks the contract.
Okay, so Bayley not a participant, but you're talking her doing like a run-in or something along those lines.
Yeah, I want her to, a la Bray Wyatt a few years ago when he cost Roman Reigns from winning the briefcase. I want to see Bayley in some way, shape, or form cost Sasha the briefcase and finally get the feud we've been waiting for the last 6 months. They can't turn me.
Sean, I'll let you take the lead on the next match, AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura.
I have been waiting since the day that Shinsuke won the Royal Rumble for these two to put on a classic. And I've said this time in and time out that last man standing matches in this era of the WWE are absolutely god-awful. They don't work, but I think if they're going to culminate this series and finally give them the allotted time and allow them to put on a classic match, it has to be tonight. And I'm picking this simply because I don't want to see it ruin his career because I'm such a huge fan. I'm picking Shinsuke Nakamura. I think it's finally time to put the title on Shinsuke, and if by some way, shape, or form, even Samoa Joe wins the briefcase like you two predict, I'd be okay with Shinsuke winning, Joe cashing in, and getting a triple threat or something with those three guys for a month or so and seeing what happens. But I really hope Shinsuke wins, and I'm going with Shinsuke. I think it depletes the feud if you don't have Shinsuke win at least once.
Well, 3 matches and 3 opposite predictions between the two Seans. I am going AJ Styles, and there's a couple reasons for why I'm picking AJ Styles. first and foremost, I think he's better. I think he's, in the ring, he's shown to be much better, at least in WWE, and the fans are behind him. He's probably a little bit better. He's not great on the mic or a great personality, but I think he's better than what we're seeing from Nakamura. Right now, if you have a guy that's just really better in every facet, why do you need to change the championship? Secondly, I don't think that they want to continue this feud beyond tonight. If Nakamura wins, I think it automatically extends it, and I think that they would rather just go in a different direction. It hasn't been as good as anticipated. Maybe tonight's match will be the classic that we have been expecting, but I think this ends the feud tonight, and the only way this feud truly ends tonight is with AJ Styles walking out the champion, and I do believe that he has some great contenders in the wings, because when you look on the heel side, you see a Samoa Joe waiting. Samoa Joe, AJ Styles for the title could begin maybe as early as this Tuesday, and that would be terrific. So I'm going AJ Styles to retain the title here tonight. I do hope, regardless of the outcome, that it is by far the best match out of what is now the 5-match series between these two over the past 2+ months.
I'm going to go with AJ. I agree. I think he's better in the American style as in the WWE than Shinsuke. And my personal opinion, as long as Vince is the overall, end game as far as what happens, I don't think he's going to pull the trigger and put the strap on Shinsuke. If he was gonna pull the trigger, he would have done it after the Royal Rumble win. So I agree. They need to just end this. It's been 5 matches now. The first 4 were average at best. I'm going to go with AJ to close this out.
And by the way, if we do potentially get AJ Styles and Samoa Joe, maybe you could go Nakamura and Daniel Bryan. I think the internet fans, the wrestling hardcore fans would love both of those. So that's a great way that SmackDown could move forward and probably improve as well, potentially, if they go in that direction with those two storylines. Let's get into the 2 women's title matches. Of course, that there's a lot of attention being paid to Ronda Rousey and Nia Jax. I have voiced my displeasure with this feud all along. We highlighted it on the Raw recap part of this week's installment, and the build-up to it this past week with Ronda getting the upper hand with the armbar. To me, it's very difficult to predict this match, and I say that because someone is going to be harmed character-wise going forward with momentum no matter what they do here. I don't see a way that both women really gain momentum from this. I think you're either going to really quickly discredit Nia Jax as a champion after putting months and months into building her up as a face, or you're going to have this gigantic star in Ronda Rousey lose her first singles match. And really, the only way to avoid that, and this was sort of alluded to by Jason, is you have a cash-in in the match. While the match is going on, you could have the woman who wins the Money in the Bank ladder match cash in. That could happen, and if that's the case, then you can't really anticipate, what the outcome would be. But if this stays a true one-on-one match, I'm going with Ronda Rousey, because I just don't see them having her lose her first match. Now, does she win the title? I don't know. Maybe she wins by DQ. Maybe there's a count-out. Nonetheless, I think she has to win her first singles match, or else it really is a major setback for her. And yes, you can say, well, she's just learning. This is her transition. She was great at MMA, but now she's learning WWE. But I don't think you want to do that. I think they build her as just dominant from the get-go, and she's going to find a way to win this match. Whether or not she wins the title remains to be seen, but I think she gets the W when it's all said and done. Ronda Rousey over Nia Jax in some capacity.
See, the way I texted my prediction to you and the way it says it probably on the graphic, I screwed up in the way I texted it. I had said Nia by DQ, but by my standpoint of that, I meant Nia being disqualified to get Ronda the win. Ronda can't go home with the championship. Nia losing to Ronda completely destroys anything they built, like you said. So I think the best possible outcome, and I think a way they can do this is they talked about Nia with all the things that were illegal in the UFC that you can do in the WWE now. They brought that up in that little interview shtick with the 12-6 elbows, the grabbing of the hair, things like that. So I could see something happening where Nia is getting frustrated and takes it out on Ronda, doing something that is illegal and causing a disqualification. Therefore, she still holds the championship, but it doesn't make Ronda have to suffer a loss. She still gets a victory in the process.
Jason?
I know the losers are going to be the fans because I think this is going to be a train wreck. I agree with Sean. I'm going to go with Nia, probably by like a DQ type thing. They're leaning her towards a heel turn. I think that might go if it doesn't happen where there's a cash in during the match. I think there's going to be a heel turn by Nia. She's going to get herself disqualified. That way, Rousey wins. She makes her heel turn. It doesn't really lessen her per se as a character because she did that heel turn. I'm going to go with Nia.
Let's talk about SmackDown Women's title. Carmella, the champion, believe it or not, against the challenger Asuka. Seems very lopsided on paper. This probably more than anything else is the match that concerns me that they will get it wrong. If Asuka loses this match by pinfall or by submission, which is just almost unfathomable. If Asuka loses, I think this will be the beginning of the end of her as a legitimate star in WWE. She has to win this match. Does she have to win the title? No, probably not. But I think it would just be the logical way to go about it is having her defeat Carmella cleanly. I want to see Asuka win the title tonight, pinfall or submission victory over Carmella. And Carmella has done perfectly fine in the role that she has been given, but she is not of the same caliber of many of these top women on SmackDown. Charlotte, Becky Lynch, even Naomi, if you want to have them challenge against Asuka because it makes it so much more entertaining and the match, is going to be so much better. Carmella can still have a nice role, but she should not be a champion on a show that has some of the other talent that SmackDown does. So my pick, and I am hoping and praying more than anything else that this pick comes true, is that Asuka wins tonight, and I would think a victory would also lead to her capturing the championship, which would surprisingly be her first championship on the main roster.
Yeah, Asuka's going to win in some capacity, but I would love to see her walk out with the title. I'm still skeptical as to why Carmella is champion. It's still confused on how they let her beat Charlotte twice. It just makes no sense. But if something I have read really comes true tonight, and it happens that Carmella walks out with the championship because of this, and not by winning by DQ, but by cleanly beating Asuka, I'm going to 100% cry. And I'm sure you've heard the rumor that is supposed to happen in this match.
I cover my ears. This is me on Sundays leading up to a pay-per-view. I try to avoid. So if it's a spoiler, you can say it because our fans want to hear it, but
no chin music.
No chin music might be returned.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I did actually hear that. Okay.
If that happens and Carmella cleanly beats Asuka, I'm going to cry.
So you're referring to James Ellsworth, of course, who was with her for quite some time. Legitimately got released by the company. Probably 6 months ago or so. He helped her win Money in the Bank at this time a year ago. Bring him back, fine. I'm okay with him being back in the company in a limited role. But you cannot have Asuka lose this match. I don't care if it's outside interference, whatever. She cannot lose by pinfall or submission because it ruins her. I don't see any way that you can still value Asuka the same if she loses this match.
It would really suck to have two both women's championships end in a DQ. There's but that's kind of what you almost have to do. Like you said, as far as Asuka's reputation, Ellsworth coming in and getting Carmella DQ'd is a possibility. I'm hoping and praying that Asuka just outright wins. I think she's deserving of it. I think it was a shame that they ended her streak with a loss to Charlotte just because Charlotte's who she is. I think Asuka's better than Charlotte. So I'm going to go with Asuka.
All right, so that leads us into one other title match that is significant. It is the U.S. title, which, if you're looking on the Raw side, it's the biggest. I should take it back. It's the Intercontinental title. They switch around. It's the Intercontinental title, which is the biggest title on Raw for 90% of the time, with Brock Lesnar never being there with the Universal title. And this is not only a title match, but it's a match between two guys that are on the rise. When you have Seth Rollins, probably the hottest guy in the entire company right now, and I say that keeping in mind that Braun Strowman's been incredibly hot for months. I think Seth Rollins is even above him. And Elias, a guy that had seen his stock rise consistently over his first year plus, and then most recently now getting into his first real title feud. Interesting that Sean and I were talking last night. This is not Elias's first title shot, but it's really, if you want to talk about a significant one with build, it is, because he challenged Roman Reigns on Raw for, was that the Intercontinental title? I think it was. Nonetheless.
I thought he was the U.S. champion.
Was that what? Yeah, because the IC was on SmackDown then, right, with The Miz?
Yeah.
U.S. title. Nonetheless, he challenged Roman Reigns for a title on Raw, but that was an impromptu match. Now they have the build with Seth Rollins holding the title and a legitimate chance, I think, for Elias to capture his first gold. However, I'm picking the Architect tonight. Keep in mind, next month, Extreme Rules is in Pittsburgh, Elias's hometown. It would be a nice little cherry on top if he can win the title in Pittsburgh. I think the feud continues. I think it continues, however, with Seth Rollins retaining tonight. So I'm going Seth Rollins in a competitive match. I think Elias will come awfully close, but ultimately Rollins comes out on top and retains.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Seth on this one also. This feud is just getting started. I think they're building it well. They're booking it well. Elias is definitely someone on the rise. He's going to be a champion. Intercontinental is just going to be the first one, but I don't think it's going to be tonight. So yeah, I'm going to go. It's going to be close, but yeah, I'm going to have to go with Seth on this one.
I'd love to see Elias go undisputed era and shock the system, but it's not going to happen. He's going to lose tonight to Seth, but I think the one thing I want out of this match is a solid, just at least 20-minute strong match. I think these two have the capability of really stealing the show tonight. I think this is one of the, I guess you can say, quote-unquote, undercard matches that has the ability to be the best match of the night. And just the build already brings it to, I think, a starting point with about, if you were going 5-star, at the 2.5-star rating on the building point, and they can only add to this by putting on a strong match. And if they give them 20 minutes, I think it could be the best one of the night.
Sean, pun intended here, I'll let you take the reins on the match everyone is so excited about, that being Roman against Jinder Mahal.
Thanks. Yeah. You and I are still Roman fans. I'm still waiting for the heel turn. And God, they couldn't have, really, if they want him to be the face of the company, stop trying to make him build as a face and putting him up against Jinder Mahal.
They put him with Jinder because they figured that's the one guy that would get booed against Roman, I think, but it's not going to work out like that tonight, at least.
Stop. Yeah. It's doing nothing to make either one of them credible. It's not making Jinder any more credible of a heel because nobody can stand him. It's not making Roman any more credible of a face because nobody can stand him as a face. This match is pointless. I might use the bathroom during this match, even though I'm a Roman Reigns fan. But Roman Reigns is going to win this match because if you really sit there and you have Jinder Mahal beat Roman Reigns, you can't sit there and honestly think that's going to happen. The way that these two are built throughout the company. I want to see Roman turn heel, make something happen where he can sooner rather than later. Let him win tonight, and then just find something other than this for the time being.
Jason?
If I was the booker, I would shock the fans, and it would probably get him the best pop that he's ever had since his Shield days. Turn Roman heel on Jinder Mahal.
Huh?
Well, let me ask, how do you go about that?
Have him snap. You're gonna hear "you both suck," "this is boring," the typical gambit of everything Roman Reigns has been hearing for how many years now? 3? If he just pummels Jinder Mahal and Sunil Singh, they bring out all the backside guys, and he just tears them to shreds, runs back in, beats up Jinder. He's not turning Jinder face because nobody cares about Jinder to begin with, but they can have him snap and not give it. And he's not going to be a heel. He's going to be I don't give a shite about anyone. He's going to use Jinder as a sacrificial lamb, per se. That's what I would do. They have to do something. And, something like that's a surprise that you really wouldn't expect would probably be good for him.
They have shown the signs of Roman snapping over the past few weeks, too.
They have. Here's my thought is never anticipate that the company is going to go through with something that would be edgy or different. They sort of just, with Roman, you were expecting, I thought the one time where I said they are really going to turn him heel was at the end of WrestleMania. He's walking out after Lesnar retained the title, Roman, and you see the disgust in his face. I thought the next night he turns heel. Nope. They re-signed Lesnar. They've already made the match for the Greatest Royal Rumble. They're not, at this point, seemingly going to ever pull the trigger. So with that in mind, I expect a basic, hopefully short match, under 10 minutes, where Roman just wins cleanly. I don't think there's much more to it than that. Maybe Sunil tries to interfere. Roman overcomes those odds. Them thinking that will get the fans behind him, overcoming the 2-on-1 odds. People aren't going to be into the match. I hope for the wrestlers' sakes they keep it short, hard-hitting. Roman wins cleanly, and nothing changes. It's Roman the face defeating Jinder the heel in their mind, and that's it. And then they move on to something else. A match that I think has a little bit more at stake than Roman and Jinder is Daniel Bryan and Big Cass. Gigantic match, in my opinion, for Big Cass. A guy that needs a good showing. Probably could use a victory here to really elevate him. Unfortunately, I don't think he's going to get it. He just, to me, hasn't been good enough. His mic skills, many people think they're improving drastically. I think they're mediocre for the most part. And Daniel Bryan deserves better than this. I think Daniel Bryan will get better than this after tonight. He'll get the victory again. He'll go 2-0 against Big Cass. They'll move on. Hopefully they can still salvage Big Cass in the process, but I just don't think you have him beat Daniel Bryan at this point. It's just there's light years of separation between these two in real life in terms of their ability, both on the mic and in the ring. And Daniel Bryan, they showed it actually this past week on SmackDown after he did it sort of on the WWE app or whatever, WWE.com exclusive interview, where he just shredded Big Cass and said, really, you don't even know how to break a leg or things along that line. So Daniel Bryan, I think, comes out on top here, moves on to a bigger storyline. I said maybe Nakamura. That would be cool, but I think he's gonna win this feud. It's gonna end, and you just hope that if nothing else, Big Cass has a good performance in the ring tonight so that he's not really completely destroyed and set back by this.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to go with Daniel Bryan on this. Cass, in my mind, I know that from what I hear, Vince, likes his look. He's a big guy, but I think he's going to be, after his setback with his knee injury and his loss to Enzo, and I think he's going to be, a potential bust for a while. It's going to take some time to build him up. He doesn't have the mic skills. That's what Enzo was for. Enzo was the mic. He was the guy. So yeah, I'm going to go with Bryan. Bryan's just got everything that Cass doesn't right now.
I'm going Big Cass. I think if they want to make him a legitimate heel on SmackDown, you can't bring him back and have him succumb to Daniel Bryan twice. You have to have him pick up a win here to boost credibility. They've given him the mic time. He's gotten a little bit better over this feud on the mic, just a little bit. He's getting there. But you have to have him pick up a win, because if you're going to put him in a mainstay program against a fan favorite, you have to give him the opportunity to put on somewhat of a decent match. They didn't do it at the last pay-per-view. Now's the time on a bigger stage with Money in the Bank, allowing him to continue to grow as a heel and have him beat down the fan favorite tonight. And it'll only boost his heel status. It'll give him more time to run this feud for one more pay-per-view, and it gives him more time on the mic working with someone that's so experienced on it.
You talked about working on the mic. A feud that has become infamous for its promos is Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley. I'm probably in the minority. I actually enjoyed what they did this past Monday with Bobby Lashley running the obstacle course. It was a lot better than the prior weeks because, if nothing else, Lashley right now is struggling with his promos. The fans really aren't getting behind him. You show off his incredible athleticism. There's no doubt he's a tremendous athlete. He showed that. Sami Zayn sucker punches him, if you will, the sneak attack. I think, as bad as this storyline has been, and there's no one that's going to say that it's good. I think Dave Meltzer's already called it the worst storyline of the year.
Wow.
They could have a great match. I mean, let's be honest. Sami Zayn is terrific. Bobby Lashley is talented in the ring. He's not Sami Zayn caliber by any means, but he's good enough, and someone of his size rarely has the ability that Bobby Lashley has. I think if they make this a straight-up legitimate match instead of just a squash in favor of Bobby Lashley, it could be a great match, and it could be one of the better ones of the night. All of a sudden, if that happens, this feud with all the terrible exchanges doesn't look as bad because it delivers a good in-ring product. However, my concern is, and really sort of what I'm thinking will happen, is Bobby Lashley wins, and I think he wins pretty easily. And Sami Zayn doesn't get a lot of offense in. Maybe it goes 7 or 8 minutes, but I think Lashley dominates, wins very easily and decisively at the end. Either way, Bobby Lashley's winning this match. I just hope that it is an even back-and-forth exchange for the most part until Lashley gets the last move in. But I don't want to see Sami Zayn get squashed, for lack of a better term, in this match.
I'm actually going to go with Sami on this. I was never an overly big Sami Zayn fan when he came in as a face. But since his heel turn, I think he's been pretty entertaining. Him reading with the reading specs, and
we bring that up all the time.
I think it's time for him to get a push. All the other NXT champions that have come up have done something. He hasn't won a title since he's came up. He's mentioned that. As much as it pains me because I like Bobby Lashley, I think he's a phenomenal talent. I'm going to go with Sami on this.
I think Bobby Lashley's going to win. I'm with you, Sean. I don't know. they might try to prolong this a little bit, at least get another month out of it. But I don't know, all signs and everything with the way Sami Zayn has approached this and allowing him to run the mic during this build, I think it just puts everything, all the chips in the basket that Bobby Lashley's going to win this time around. I mean, I'm with my dad, though. I would love to see Sami Zayn win. I think it's time that Sami Zayn becomes a credible superstar on the Raw roster. And I think that begins tonight in a way, even if he does lose but puts on a great match, because they have finally separated him and Kevin Owens for a little bit, and it allows them to both go out and do their own thing. And I mean, you and I have talked about this to an extent about the Sami Zayn Kevin Owens thing. I think Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn working together holds back Sami Zayn more than it does Kevin Owens. It allows Kevin Owens to still be a main eventer in a way, but it holds Sami back as kind of a cheerleader and helping Kevin Owens do whatever. It's time for Sami to get that run.
Last match we want to touch on here before we sign off. Well, first off, I do want to clarify. I was under the impression that the B team was challenging Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy tonight for the titles. That was not posted on the WWE website.
It's still not, it's still not, as far as I know, a match on the pay-per-view.
Okay.
Rematch.
Right. Yeah. So we're not going to talk about that one because they have not. At least when I checked earlier this week, just a day or two ago, they did not have that listed.
Shout out to both parties being champions and not being on the fifth biggest pay-per-view of the year.
It's
Wyatt finally winning another title, and he still is just underutilized.
It's bad that Jeff Hardy seemingly is doing nothing, and I think that's because of some issues with injuries to Randy Orton and some other guys. But
potential injury, that's why they're kept.
Right. So there is one other match. It's going to be on the pre-show. It's probably not going to be one that many people care about. Bludgeon Brothers, Anderson and Gallows. Big fan of the Bludgeon Brothers. However, I don't think that they have had the matches they've been capable of because they're booked to dominate. Didn't like what they did at WrestleMania. And they sort of, after they won the title, have kind of become second, in the back burner, if you will, on SmackDown. The Usos, same type of thing. The New Day is the team that's really getting the push right now. So you go with the new challenger, Anderson and Gallows, after they came over in a Superstar shakeup. Guys that are perfectly capable, but to me, nothing really stands out about them. So I think Bludgeon Brothers win this one. I don't think that this match really is going to, catch the attention of many people in the WWE universe. I think Bludgeon Brothers easily retain, and I don't know that we see Anderson and Gallows really contend again for quite some time.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Bludgeon Brothers. As much as I like Gallows and Anderson, except for their little, short title run that they had, they have really done nothing. And I don't see them starting tonight on a pre-show match.
See, all I want is a feud for Harper and Rowan, a la versus the Usos versus the New Day from a couple years ago. I understand booking them as this ultra dominant team, but they have the capability of putting on great matches, and they've done that. And Meltzer has given tag team matches with Harper and Rowan match of the night in terms of out of 5 stars.
They're tremendously talented. I agree with you. I think that they're wrestling the way that they're booked, which is to win the match easily and not have that back and forth that lends itself to a more spectacular type of match.
And what I want to see out of this is, because they have hesitated to do it for so long now, I think the Bludgeon Brothers are going to win, but I think Sanity debuts tonight and attacks the Bludgeon Brothers.
Okay, but you're still saying Bludgeon Brothers win.
Bludgeon Brothers win, but I think Sanity makes their debut tonight. And I would love to see those three come out, led by Eric Young, and, kind of add a twist to the SmackDown tag division.
As much as I'd like to see that, I can't see them debuting Sanity on a pre-show.
That would be I would agree with that. They do recap on the main show what happened in the pre-show, but I sort of agree. That might be, maybe you get Bludgeon Brothers win tonight, and then Tuesday you have that type of thing.
That would be ideal. But yeah,
I need something with sanity in the Bludgeon Brothers. That's all I want.
Fair enough. So that wraps up the predictions. Now we do want to run down. We have a graphic here made. Now, unfortunately, we didn't have Jason's picks, but Sean Squared, have the picks on here. Now, I do want to clarify as I put it up on the screen. You mentioned you don't think Nia Jax will win. You think she will retain the title, and Ronda Rousey technically will actually win the match. So, just to recap between myself and Sean Saputo, I have Samoa Joe. He has Braun Strowman. I have Natalya. He has Becky Lynch. I have AJ Styles. He has Shinsuke Nakamura. So, first 3 matches, we disagree. Even though the graphic shows disagreeing again on Nia and Ronda, we both agree Ronda wins the match. However, Sean contending that Nia keeps the title. I think that could very easily happen as well. Asuka, unanimous pick, as is Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. We differ on Daniel Bryan and Big Cass, with me picking Daniel Bryan, Sean Saputo picking Big Cass. And then we agree on the final 2 matches, Bobby Lashley as well as the Bludgeon Brothers. And what we're going to do, and we should have probably done this earlier, is next week we will come back with that same graphic and we'll see, were we right, were we way off? Because when we did WrestleMania predictions, it was ugly. I think last time around, along with Kyle Dawson, we were a little bit closer. I think Backlash was a little bit more predictable and by the book. So we'll see how this one turns out, but we'll revisit these and we'll add up and see who did better next week. Is there anything that either you desperately want to see or hope that you do not see tonight as we close out our predictions here and our thoughts on Money in the Bank?
I would like to see a cash-in. That all depends, obviously, on the order of matches, but I alluded to it. I would like to see a cash-in. Natty cashing in would be ideal, in my opinion.
I want to see Sanity. I'm just going to throw it out there. I want to see Sanity. I've been super huge on them since NXT, and I'm a huge Eric Young fan, even going back to TNA. So I want to see Sanity. I want to see Shinsuke and AJ put on a classic. I want to see Roman turn heel. And I don't want to see Carmella cleanly beat Asuka. And I don't want to see Roman Reigns versus Jinder Mahal.
You're not alone there. Two things that stick out for me, and they both involve the Japanese superstars. I think it has to be a good showing for Nakamura, where if he loses, but they have a 5-star match that blows away the other 4 matches that they've done, he still gets over, I think, with that. Because then the fans on the main roster finally see that he's as good as what people have talked him up to be. Win or lose, he has to have a great match tonight. And if he can't have a great match with AJ Styles in 5 tries, then maybe he's not as good as what people think. Asuka, she has to get the victory tonight. Again, I think she probably should win the title, but she has to not lose this one by pinfall or by submission. If she does, I think it will bring an end to the mystique that surrounded her for years and years in NXT and when she first came up on the main roster. Lost a little bit of luster from WrestleMania up to this point. They did a good job the last couple weeks building it back up. It's all out the window tonight if she loses to Carmella by pinfall or submission. So I think more than anyone else, Nakamura and Asuka will be under the microscope tonight. That's going to do it for this edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. I want to thank Sean Meyers. I'm Sean Meyers. I want to thank Sean Saputo as well as his dad, Jason. And by the way, happy Father's Day to Jason and to everyone else out there celebrating this day. I want to thank you for tuning in. Reminder, you could check us out on our YouTube page. You could follow us on Twitter. We'll throw the graphic up real quick here. 5-Star Pod Wrestle Twitter account. Check that out as well. And we have all the videos on our YouTube channel. And more than anything else, remember to tune in next week as we'll be back for another edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. Thank you for listening.